Tonight, we welcome back federal conservative leader and the opposition leader, Pierre. Thank you for joining us again in studio.
Great to be back with you, Stephanie.
Now, there's a lot to talk about today, but I first want to touch on the war in the Middle East. Just like many cities across Canada, there have been rallies here in Windsor. There have been prayers, there have been demonstrations, a lot of tension in our community. We do have a robust population on both sides here in Windsor. Overall, what is your message to Windsorites and Canadians during these times of tragedy?
Let's stay united. We don't want to import the violence in other parts of the country. We want to put an end to the anti-Semitic attacks on synagogues and Jewish schools, firebombings, shootings. These kinds of terrorist acts are unacceptable and must be prosecuted. We also need to show respect to our Muslim community, regardless of the evil of Hamas. The Muslim Canadians are not responsible for that. So I encourage Canadians to stay united and remember that we're all Canadians after all.
Now, last time you and I spoke, you were talking about how the opioid crisis was one of your top priorities.
Yes.
Is that still the case? And if so, what is your plan at this point?
Yes, it is a big problem. Under Trudeau, 30,000 people have died to overdose because they've liberalized drugs. They're not prosecuting possession of crack, heroin, and other hard drugs, and the government is giving out tax-funded opioids. They call it safe supply, but really it's the same pharmaceutical drugs that started the opioid crisis in the first place, to the great profit of Big Pharma. My common sense plan is to take the money away from that and put it into treatment and recovery, counseling programs, group therapy, inpatient services, sweat lodges for First Nations, job training, to bring our loved ones home drug-free. I'm going to ban hard drugs. I'm going to stop giving out tax-funded opioids, and I'm going to sue Big Pharma so that we can recover millions and maybe even billions of dollars to hold them accountable for having caused this crisis, but also to put an end to the crisis with treatment and recovery.
And I know you know that Windsor's only consumption and treatment site opened just this past spring. It is completely funded by our local health unit. We did get approval from the federal government, but as you know, provincially, we have not received approval or funding. That was put on pause because unfortunately there was a shooting outside a CTS in Toronto. Unfortunately, a single mother of two passed away there. So all approval process is on pause right now. Now, our local health unit officials have made it clear that that we are very dependent on this provincial funding. So right now there's two options if we don't get the approval. A, the burden will fall on our local taxpayers, which, as you know, are struggling to make their basic needs met, or the consumption site will be forced to close down. So have you had any conversations with Conservative Premier Doug Ford on the approval and funding process to date?
No, I have not. As you pointed out, the site in Toronto was responsible for the murder of an innocent mother who was hit by a stray bullet. So they call it safe consumption. It doesn't sound very safe if bullets are flying around. They have these sites in Vancouver, which has turned into a hell. Downtown East Side has turned into a hellscape, and it's led to more deaths, more overdoses, more homelessness, and more violence. That's the hard evidence. We have to follow the evidence, and the evidence shows that what we need is treatment and recovery, not more tax-funded drugs. Treatment and recovery will bring our loved ones home drug-free, and that's what I'm going to do.
Okay, so what message do you have for our local health officials who are telling us that the evidence does show that these consumption and treatment sites do work? What's your final message for them?
My message for them is follow the facts, which lead to recovery and treatment. Giving people more tax-funded drugs has only expanded the problem. Since Justin Trudeau brought in that policy nationwide, we've seen a 200% increase in overdose deaths. We don't want the entire country to look like the downtown east side of Vancouver, with people lying face first on the pavement for blocks and blocks and blocks and blocks, and 7 or 8 people dying every day of overdoses. But that is what will come to other communities if we follow that failed model. More recovery, not more drugs.
Okay, as you know, Windsor-Essex, the southernmost part of Canada, we are very rich when it comes to agriculture and farming right up the 401, the town of Leamington, tomato capital of Canada. We are very proud of it.
Yes.
Local farmers this week disappointed with the Senate. So let's talk about your bill, C-234, that if passed would offer some financial relief to some of them.
Yes, our common sense conservative bill, which passed through the House of Commons, would take the carbon tax off of our farmers. Right now, farmers have to pay tax on heating their barns, drying their grains, and even on releasing CO2 into the greenhouses that you would see in Leamington, where they grow those beautiful vegetables. Ironically, that CO2 is actually absorbed by the plant life. It doesn't even go into the atmosphere, but it drives up the cost of local produce, forces Canadians to buy foreign food that's more expensive and less nutritious and worse for the environment. So we want to bring home food production, and my common sense plan is to take the tax off farm fuels, and I'm calling on the Liberals to tell Justin Trudeau that his senators should pass this common sense conservative bill. We were very disappointed that the Liberal member of Parliament in Windsor-Tecumseh voted to raise home heating taxes on people in Windsor, while his leader was giving a pause on that tax to people in other parts of the country. Windsor residents can't afford to quadruple the carbon tax as Trudeau and your local MP propose. Pierre Poilievre and the Common Sense Conservatives will axe the tax.
So let's talk about that carbon tax a little further. You're talking about when it was announced Atlantic Canada would get an exemption. I just want to point out that Statistics Canada reported in 2021 that 3% of Canadian homes relied on home heating oil. So most of these homes are in Atlantic Canada.
Yeah, so Justin Trudeau gave a temporary pause on the tax in a region of the country where he was plummeting in the polls and his caucus was revolting. And our view is that a Canadian is a Canadian is a Canadian. So if people in that part of the country don't have to pay the tax, and I don't think they should, then people in Windsor shouldn't have to pay it either. Yet the local Liberal MP in Windsor-Tecumseh voted with Trudeau not only to keep the tax on your natural gas heat, but to actually quadruple that tax. I don't know how seniors in the community are going to be able to eat and heat when the Trudeau tax is quadrupled. So common sense conservatives are saying, let's take the tax off all home heating and let people stay warm this winter. And then when I become Prime Minister, I'll axe the tax altogether.
So if you do axe the tax, what would you replace it with as part of Canada's international pledge to fight climate change?
Well, I take the opposite approach. The current Trudeau government wants to raise the cost of traditional energy we still need, like gassing up your truck. I want to lower the cost of carbon-free alternatives. So I will green light projects like nuclear power, hydroelectric dams, carbon capture and storage, tidal wave power off the east coast of Canada, so that we can create a surge of clean, green, emissions-free electricity that will power our future without emissions. I'll incentivize businesses to invest in technology, not taxes, to bring down their emissions. And in that way, we'll make it possible for people to have affordable alternatives. That to me is common sense.
Conservatives are flying high right now. There's no doubt about it. Are you concerned that the party is peaking too soon and riding frustration over affordability concerns that might subside come election time, as you mentioned, running to be Prime Minister?
Thank you. Well, I don't know when the election will be held, but when it does happen, it'll be a choice between the costly coalition of the NDP and Liberals, who tax your food, take your money, punish your work, double your housing costs, and unleash crime and chaos in your community, or common sense conservatives who will free you to earn a powerful paycheck and pension that buys affordable food, gas, and homes in safe neighborhoods. And that's a choice that I think Canadians will make in our favor.
Okay, is there anything else you would like to touch on today?
Housing. I know housing costs have doubled after 8 years of Trudeau, and now mortgage prices. The average mortgage payment on a new home is $3,500, which is absolutely unaffordable. My common sense plan will balance the budget to bring down mortgage rates, and it will require cities permit 15% more home building per year as a condition of getting federal money. I'm going to require federally funded transit stations be permitted for high density housing all around them so that our youth and seniors can live next to the bus or train, sell off 6,000 federal buildings, thousands of acres of federal land to build, and finally make sure CMHC approves financing for new affordable apartments in 60 days rather than in 2 years as it takes now. Those are the common sense steps we're going to take to bring homes that you can afford. You'll never believe this, Stephanie. We have the fewest homes per capita in the G7, even though we have by far the most land to build on. It's crazy. Why? Because it takes so long in Canada to get building permits. The bureaucracy adds as much as $1.3 million to the cost of every newly built home in Vancouver. Toronto has increased its development charges 900%. Montreal has blocked 24,000 homes. Winnipeg blocked 2,000 homes next to a transit station that was built for those homes. We need to get these local bureaucracies out of the way, and that's why I'm going to require that cities permit 15% more homes per year as a condition of getting federal money. I'm going to pay the city bureaucracies like realtors get paid. They get paid commission. They sell a house, they get paid, right? Right now, the bureaucrats get the money no matter what. I'm going to say, no, you've got to permit more homes if you want to get more money to pay your salary. And that means a 15% growth rate in home building will double home building within 5 or 6 years. That's my goal. It's a common sense plan. If we want homes for young people to buy, they have to get built, and I'm going to make sure they do.
Obviously talking about housing, affordability,
Right.
Big issues here in Windsor. What do you have to say to Windsorites here who are looking forward to the future of Windsor? So much investment coming here. There is a lot of positivity, yet there are those concerns there. So
Yes.
Directly speaking to people across Windsor, Essex, any last words?
Well, I would say that we have an exciting future together. I want the people who do the hard work in Windsor to benefit from it. Right now, taxes are so high that when people go out and earn a bonus, they get home and they look at their paycheck and they say, where did it all go? It got deducted for income tax, payroll tax, then they pay all these other taxes. I want to lower taxes to reward hard work so that the brilliant tradesmen and women in Windsor bring home a bigger paycheck, and this becomes a country again that rewards the people who carry the nation on their backs.
Okay, Pierre, again, thank you so much for coming
Thanks very much for
in
having me.
studio, and feel free to stop by anytime.
All right, very good to be with you, and make sure you get some tea for that cold.
Will do, thank you.